In the heart of every man, there's a strength we can't deny. Through the storm and through the pain, we're reaching for the sky.
Hello Gerhard. Hello guys. It's
Hi, Jeremy.
the second podcast episode of the Resurrect Patriarchy podcast. And so I want to keep talking about where the like keep going with the conversation that we started in the first episode. And yeah, kind of pondering what I mean by the fact that we need to resurrect patriarchy. What it means, what does it mean to resurrect it, and what is it I'm actually talking about when I'm talking about patriarchy. So I'm going to develop a little bit on this. Um, it's funny because today there are many people, and I've been one of them, who actually defend the fact that we need to abolish patriarchy. But if I say that we need to resurrect it, I actually mean that in many ways in the West, it is dead. There is no patriarchy anymore, and maybe it's been going on for some times. Or actually, it's not been actually ruling the world. And so yeah, let me explain a bit more what I mean about all this. I believe that when we what we're pointing to when we say that, when some say that they want abolish patriarchy, they're actually pointing at some derivation or some derivation of masculine energy, which is actually not uh, healthy anymore, and which tends to enforce what is supposed to happen naturally. And I believe there is a masculine authority, a masculine power that we call patriarchy, and which is being empowered when basically men are grown-ups enough so that they make decisions, and they're the ones in society making decisions for the greater good of everyone. For they have the interests of other people in mind over their own. And that's basically what you don't see when you see laws that are being voted by men to force people to act in a certain way, rather than to find, I would say, I will not develop on this, but a way of the hurt, a way of compassion to make understand why what you're trying to vote as a law, or what you're trying to spread as a message is actually about love and not about oppression. And so
Mm.
that's why I mean we need to resurrect something that has been dead, and which has precisely been yeah, I don't want to say been
Um,
killed because that's a bit violent, but it's been hindered by men who were not grown-ups enough to keep caring about other people, and who have put together, it's something over time. Obviously, I don't believe there are evil people at all, but that's another. But these men, because they were in pain in some ways, they over time they built structures and laws that were trying to make up for a right way of things, uh, like the for a way things are supposed to be when everything is going all right, but they're trying to do it by force rather than to be empowered by love and by their hurt. So that's why I mean, that's what I mean when I say we need to resurrect it. And so what is patriarchy and what it is not? Um, yeah, I believe I started to answer this. Okay, I'm curious, Gerhard, what you have to say about all this.
Well, hi guys. Welcome to the second episode. I I have to say that it's it's interesting that you mentioned the hindrance or almost the crippling of the masculine energy in many ways, but how it has also in the past crippled many other very necessary aspects of our society just to pursue goals. Very goal orientated, utilitarian view of the world that we need to just be productive and things just need to move forward. Things need to be constructed and built and organized, and it destroyed a lot of the spiritual and emotional intelligence that our culture as a whole could have developed along the way. It's as if we're emotionally and spiritually either completely void or immature in many ways, because those figures, even though they're available to us, the way that you're also talking about laws and all kinds of institutions that have been established to really enforce this idea that we need to be a society pretty much all over the world, but it's not everywhere. Uh, just to pursue more growth, more growth, more growth, more expansion, which is obviously crazy. It's just not possible. Instead of actually cultivating more wisdom and more spiritual growth and more understanding of one another, more empathy, all of that isn't going against what patriarchy, healthy patriarchy really is. It doesn't go against any of that. But I think there is some kind of view of it out there in the collective unconscious of our species that it's only a certain kind of thing. It's only that rigorous pursuit of something. And you you kind of touched on the idea, and I wanted to touch on it in our first episode, but I'm glad that you specifically brought it up here, is this idea that laws all around the world just have this kind of built-in aspect that hinders certain parts of our society and raises others up onto a pedestal. Certain perspectives, certain ideas of how we should function are clearly being raised up, and others are being suppressed. And we're trying to find that balance. How do you not completely destroy this idea that yes, we want to make progress, we want to develop technology, we want to develop technology ethically and with empathy and with understanding for our fellow man, not to abuse and to manipulate and um, to use people as tools to get this goal, that whatever it is that you want to achieve. But at the same time, we don't completely lose sight of the goal entirely. It's just there's better ways to pursue it, and without enforcing it by law. When there's actual true empathy and wisdom cultivated within us, you don't even need laws for us to actually pursue the goal ethically. Because at the end of the day, if we the more laws, most people don't even know what most of the laws in the country is, because we just keep creating laws to enforce a certain perspective of the time, but most people don't even know what those laws are. The common man can't keep up. It's just impossible.
Mm.
Less laws, more empathy and understanding, and wisdom that actually automatically will cultivate a certain ethic and morality within us. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Yeah, yeah. I yeah, what comes up as I hear you speaking is precisely how would I describe a patriarch? Uh, what I revendicate, would you say that? What I revendicate, what I advocate for? Like when I'm
That's a little
talking,
more accurate.
yeah, when I'm talking about patriarchy, I'm actually defending uh, the fact that I'm defending masculine leadership, and I believe
Yes,
that we need to actually keep empowering men over
yes,
women. And I know that this is when it starts to get controversial. We need to let men take leadership roles if we want to not succumb and crumble under all these laws that always mean more oppression at the end of the day in many cases. And why it's I believe it's whether you want it to be a universal law or the result of, let's say, evolutionary patterns, men need to be revered in order to be inspired. Yeah, I was lost for 2 seconds. To be inspired to serve other people. Like it's actually, if you love men, you will respect them. You will empower them to lead, because if you
Exactly.
empower them to lead consciously, and it's not about being smaller and like tiptoeing around their ego. It's not about worshipping their egos. It's about empowering them to lead, because when you do that, you turn on something which is really deep and comes from the dawn of ages.
I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, it actually brings up the best in men. And
Yes.
I believe a great temptation of the postmodern Western culture, which is greatly inspired by feminism, is it's trying to use laws to domesticate men. And I believe it's a terrible mistake that will
Yes.
inevitably, if we do not find more balance, if we really want to go all the way into getting revenge and not equality, if the feminist movement, which I've been a part of for many years, I eventually came to realize that if we go all the way towards resentment and suspicion towards men, you're actually going to bring up the worst in men. They're just going to react, and they're going to react violently. When if you understand that masculine leadership is actually its actual finality, when all conditions are gathered, is to serve other people and sacrifice for other people, then you understand that we do need to resurrect patriarchy. We do need to re-empower men and stop trying to domesticate them, because it's not going to work. It's not going to be helping anyone, and especially not the people defending feminism and rightfully so. Like I believe there are legitimate reasons why people are feminist or whatever, but these legitimate reasons, it's not going to happen. The equality, everything, it's not going to happen without healthy masculine leadership. So that's
Yes, MJ. So I've extremely feel you so deeply when you shared that, because at the end of the day, there is what you're saying creates a culture of resentful men, because they're not being empowered in a conscious way, the way you described it. It all comes down to conscious empowerment. I love the fact that you said that. But when that happens, and if it's done right, men lead via humility and not by ego, because it's having a culture with masculine figures. And I should mention this immediately while you were sharing. It comes down to how the macrocosm mirrors the microcosm. It starts with obviously every single individual, but that individual with the family structure they're in, all of that projects out to the larger society at large. And the interesting thing about this idea of resurrecting patriarchy now is not, again, and that I believe we mentioned this in the first episode. It's not about completely abolishing the past, but also not projecting the past onto the present or our future. It's about completely embracing what and who we are as a species, as individuals, as your family lineage created you, all of it. You take in all of it, you embrace every aspect of it, no matter how negative it is, at least out of your perspective, every single individual's perspective. And once you fully embrace who and what you are, we as a culture can actually find the most healthy way to resurrect the structure with nuance. I see it as a patriarchy with nuance, because we don't completely reject and live a life of judgment towards others when it comes to folks. For example, women that have a lot of masculine traits that want to be leaders to their utmost extent, they're obviously completely welcome in society, just as much as anyone else. It's not about completely reorganizing society to remove the aspects of the feminine leadership that we have in our world. It's just about understanding that we shouldn't be breaking down men to bring women up to a leadership position, or to prioritize them just because that is now what's trendy in society. We're talking about actually having a society that can withstand the the turmoil, the trials and tribulations that come with having a globally connected humanity. It isn't just about one city or one state, one country, none of that. It really is about seeing ourselves as a global family and understanding that the best way to support a global family is to have real structure with nuance. There's always nuance. There will be families that aren't conventional, so to speak. So their households are going to be more unique and nuanced. Specifically in a homosexual relationship, at the end of the day, the nuances in that relationship is up to the family, the family dynamics that they decide on, but they don't impose that on others, just like we're not imposing this view on any of you. It's just understanding the value, the true value of empowering men to lead with humility and conscious understanding of their fellow man, not just to rigorously pursue their own goals because culture says you are not worthwhile if you don't provide in a certain way. And if you're not able to, and society isn't even empowering you to do it, you have to fight every single aspect of society and your fellow man, specifically men, fighting men, to then get to some upper echelon. And now on top of that, fighting women, and women are being empowered to not just be in leadership positions, but they're being pushed to be in leadership positions, which is also wrong against women, because within this resurrecting of the patriarchy, we also then allow society to see women as the beautiful feminine energy that they are, to actually cultivate the next generation, because they're literally portaling the next human generation into this world over and over again. We can't take that away from them. We can't even be questioning what the feminine energy is. It's good that it's taking place. Again, we kind of touched on this in the first episode, but just questioning what a woman is at the end of the day, knowing very, very well that they are bringing the next generation into this world. How will we then focus on how they're actually teaching their sons? Are they going to tell their sons that they can't be what they are? Because that's part of what this is. If we break down patriarchy entirely, what are those women teaching their sons? You can't be who you are. That energy you're showing me right now as a 5-6-year-old, that you really have some kind of drive already, that's wrong. That's evil. That's not okay. Teach your son to be a humble man that respects his woman from a young age. All the women around him. But that comes from you, the mother. Of course it does. Don't break down your son, build him up. Then you don't have to be afraid of that powerful energy coming out of him.
Yeah. Thank you, Gerard. And
Thank you,
it
MJ.
makes me like one thing that came to mind, but I think we're going to end this soon. It's that it comes at a time where women less and less like there tend to be a counter norm where women tend to be mothers later in life, if mothers at all. And I believe there is something that is happening there obviously it's easier to look down on men if you have no sons and you don't want to have sons. But yeah, so thank you so much, and I believe as we go on with the next episodes, I believe I'd like to end episodes with kind of calls to action and everything. And so the last thing I want to say before we wrap this up is that despite the fact that we pointed out the fact that if we do not respect them, the danger is that if we do not empower them to lead, the danger is that they will lead anyway, but not from the hurt, but from like
a place of resentment.
Yeah, from resentment. The one last thing I want to say is that let's not, as men precisely, let's not blame women or woke people or the state
Absolutely
or
not.
whatever. It's up to you to take the lead and to learn to be a humble leader. Maybe it's going to be more difficult for you than it was for other men in the past, but it's still up to you to do this work, and you can do it even
Absolutely.
in the face of people disrespecting you and judging you. And
Yes.
and yeah, let's not use this as an excuse to be worse men that we know we actually are. So
Absolutely not. It's more of addressing. Before we end the episode, Jeremy, I would love to just give a quick last comment on that, and perhaps then you can end it off for us and send the audience away with just a beautiful message. I really love what you said there, because none of this, and the folks out there really need to understand this, we do not come from a place of judgment or resentment. I believe I can also, I don't speak for Jeremy, but I know that he definitely has also experienced his own fair share of resentment. And he mentioned some of it in his shares in the first episode. We are not coming from a place of judgment towards women or towards society that has constantly overcorrected so extremely, and that we are now just thrust into it without choice, of course. None of us have a choice to be here and to be in the current culture that we're in. But I believe it's a beautiful culture nonetheless. And it's not coming from a place of judgment towards anyone. It is more so a call to action. And I love that you also mentioned that, because in essence, most of this episode is either an indirect or a direct call to action for women as well, to really empower men in a conscious way, in a beautiful, loving way. And for men to then take charge internally. It needs to be an introspective reality. You need to understand within yourself. It needs to be a self-realization that I can and should empower myself as well, regardless of my circumstances, no matter what is happening around me. I have it within me, and I have a duty towards myself, towards my fellow man, because you are a part of a culture. You are not this insane, completely separated individual that is just, because the reality is we're in a very individualistic society. That's a big part of what we're also, in many ways, that we have addressed in this episode. We can't be so individualized. It's just not, it's not future proof. It isn't, because there is no connection that we feel with our fellow man. We feel like we're in essence enemies, just like countries feel like they're adversaries. We feel like enemies towards one another when it comes to certain things that we want to achieve in this world. We need to be able to also, as men, empower one another. Be willing to actually be a little more vulnerable.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, no, it was perfect. It was perfect. We can do this together as men, even in the face of everything. So thank you so much for this second episode, Gerard. It was amazing. And
Thank you,
see
Jeremy.
you soon. See you soon for a third one. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye.
Rise up, lift your head high. Feel the power in your heart, we will be denied. Rise up, let your spirit soar. Together we'll inspire and we'll be much more.